Different Native peoples practice different forms of this circle process. Around the 1990s, members of the First Nations in Canada began teaching the circle practice to non-Native people. They chose to do this because First Nation communities were seeking alternatives to the mass incarceration of their people, which was and remains another form of genocide. Since then, restorative justice has been used in prison systems, juvenile justice systems, and schools for many years. OUSD started its first restorative justice program in 2005, and since then has expanded to have restorative justice programs run in almost all of the schools across the district. In that time, we have trained over 1,000 staff in restorative practices, which includes law enforcement. Restorative justice also helped to decrease suspensions by half across OUSD since 2011. At Oakland Technical High School specifically, we've had a full-time restorative justice facilitator for the last 3 years. Last year, in the 2016-17 school year, we did over 275 restorative justice conflict practices, meaning we did either conflict circles or restorative conversations to help reduce the possibility of a fight or further conflict. We also did community building circles over 108 times, and most of those were actually facilitated by youth in the school. This video is an opportunity to showcase the work that we do here at Oakland Tech with restorative justice, and some of the RJ peer facilitators are helping to put it on as well as being interviewed.
My name is Kasum Carmel, and I am the Restorative Justice Practices Coordinator at Oakland Tech High School. So I run a restorative justice conflict mediation program at Oakland Tech. So we're going to start. I'm going to start with a quote that we had come up with before. If you're going to hold someone down, you're going to have to hold on by the other end of the chain. You are confined by your own repression. Toni Morrison. I'm going to read it one more time. If you're going to hold someone down, you're going to have to hold on by the other end of the chain because you are confined by your own repression.
What does restorative justice mean to you?
Mending the problems that come about throughout the school day and stopping new ones from arising.
It is an opportunity for students to have a voice in the classroom. It's also an opportunity for me as the adult, as the teacher in the room, to better understand my students' perspective.
It really uses the methods of reflection, of introspection, of discussion, to really help those that have perpetrated, harm or crime to a community.
Giving people an opportunity to openly express themselves in a manner where they feel safe to do so and heard.
Why do we need restorative justice?
People need to have a space to vent about issues, and usually rather than talking about our problems, we make actions that we aren't fully conscious that we're making, but we make them as a way of asking for help indirectly.
Why do you think it's important?
When we have issues amongst each other, we need to be able to repair that hurt that is felt within our community in order to continue to grow.
Especially within a classroom, that is where you build a community. And so you would want to make sure you have all of those expectations, that respect, the understanding for maximum learning.
Like I said, it really helps. It helps the youth, it helps people get along with each other, and it helps people actually express their feelings with one another instead of just fighting it out.
It's also knowledge too, so it's advocacy. So people know the system, they can work it so they don't get taken advantage of, and to heal themselves, because once you start finding out more about yourself and the stuff you go through, it's easier to adjust to it and become a whole person again.
For the simple fact that we have in our country, and particularly in many schools and places like Oakland, a school to prison pipeline. I feel like schools are sort of the first place where young men of color in particular, but not even just young men of color, even young women of color, get put on a track that lands them in prison.
What does it do for the students at the school?
It makes you feel like you have people to talk to and people that understand you.
Help us to get to know people better. It makes you feel more comfortable with the people that you are around every day.
It gives parents a peace of mind to know that if something ever does happen at the school, if there ever is a conflict, that there are people here that care about the mental side of the students and the mental aspect of what's going on.
It's also helpful for students, especially students who feel marginalized, They don't feel as if they have a voice. They don't feel as if they're part of the community. It's an opportunity to change that way of thinking and to really make students realize, or allow students to realize, that their opinion matters, their voice matters, and then what they do and say can impact the community.
Explain what a harm circle is.
Sure. So a harm circle is when there has been harm. Anything can be harmful, right? All these ways are in which we get harmed, both emotionally, physically, mentally. So in any RJ circle, one of the main things you have to get clear is if the person that has caused harm, if they're willing to take responsibility for their actions. And then you sit in a circle and you ask questions. You start off by having some agreements about how we're gonna be in the space. You're also coming up with values. Like restorative justice is really based on values. What do we value? What is important to us? Because values are one of those things that we in life try to live by. Because sometimes conflict happens because of something that happened before people even got into that space. And then we come up together as a community, as a circle, to figure out, well, what do we need to do to make this better? And we just ask questions like, what happened? You know, what were you thinking and feeling at the time? One of my major goals is to get a peer-led program. So that's training young people to be peer circle holders, training young people to be able to kind of hold those spaces so that it's not just adults holding those spaces.
What is your role in RJ at Oakland Tech? Like what specifically?
So my role is to kind of manage the whole program. So that means I'm supposed to work with teachers who want to implement RJ in their classrooms. I also work with students.
For 2 years, I've been a conflict mediator or peer one, and I've done a lot of trainings with Ms. Kasum on how to facilitate circles and harm circles.
I've been in a harm circle and I have facilitated a harm circle, and I've done the community building circles in classrooms.
I facilitated circles between conflicts.
I facilitated like conversations and like conflicts that people had.
Can you explain what a community building circle is?
So community building circles can happen at any point, but they usually involve a larger amount of people. So communities at a school could be anywhere from like a classroom that's the most obvious one. It can also be, say, all the teachers could be a community, or say all the English department teachers, that's gonna be a community. So anything that involves a larger amount of people, it's a circle that you bring all those people to be a part of. The basis of community building circles within a school system is really to try to create a deeper connection and understanding with each other. Community building circles are a way to actually break down the barriers and the things that we hold up to keep each other separate and keep each other not knowing each other. It's amazing how in a classroom space, students after the first semester will look around them in a regular average class and not know the names of other people in the room after they've been in that class with each other for 4 months. If we know each other more, if we know more about each other, we're less likely to harm each other. So there's icebreakers, there's questions, there's games that you play just so people can see each other. You always sit in circles so everyone is visible to each other. You're looking at each other in the face. You have a talking piece that goes around so everybody has equal opportunity to speak. Everybody is offered an opportunity to say what's on their heart. I really believe in youth empowerment first. I really believe that young people have understanding of the situations because they're in it. They're in that culture, they're in that community, they're in the spaces, and so young people holding circles is powerful.
Definitely having a peer be able to help you and hear you out, somebody that might have been through the same thing you've been through, and similar experiences can definitely help.
I think here at Oakland Tech, it moves us away from the punitive outcomes of bad decision making. So suspension or expulsion. It helps to rebuild community. It helps to bring conflict mediation into discussions.
First of all, like it helped me from like going through this went through something in sophomore year, and like going through a harm circle is really like beneficial to me. So I feel like, you know, other people should have that, because, you know, if I was helped by it, then everyone else could be helped by it too that's going through stuff.
Justice is definitely needed at Tech because it's high school, so it's going to be a lot of conflicts naturally, and there needs to be a place for a conversation to be had about the conflicts instead of strict punishments right away.
Years from now, what do you wish RJ will have done for people and to people?
One, if you're dealing with just like the actual when there's harm done, I've seen RJ really help build people's relationships back up. I really believe that we all have an innate quality in us that wants to have more positivity in our life and wants to have more healing. And so when young people get the skills to help other people do that, it's an empowering experience. I wish that our society believed in our ability to be held accountable and to heal from harm. I wish that there was no prison system, that we actually had a system in which people had to be held accountable for their actions within the community that they're in which the community that was harmed, that we didn't kick kids out of school, like that there's definitely accountability for actions. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be held accountable for our actions, but I wish and hope for spaces like schools to be restorative, where we really care about what happened. We really care about the young people who maybe have been harmed or caused harm, and that we're putting energy and time into what do you need, as opposed to how can I hurt you hard enough so that you'll learn. The problem in our society is that hasn't proved to be the case. That people, the more you harm somebody, the more they're harmed, the more they're going to act out of that harm and that hurt. And if we switch that and literally flip that on its side, we look at the world differently. We look at what actually do people need who have been harmed in order to heal. So my hope is that schools or our society cares more about healing and actually creating better people than it does hurting and making people feel the pain of their actions.